The restaurant gleamed. Crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths, gold-edged menus without prices. My sister's voice cut through the murmur of wealth around us. "Can you even afford this place?" She laughed, that sharp, pitying sound I'd heard my entire childhood, the sound that said I was less, always less. I didn't answer. The waiter approached our table, but his eyes shifted past her, past me, toward the entrance. A uniformed man strode through the door, ribbons across his chest, stars on his shoulders. Commander Hastings. He saw me, changed direction, walked straight to our table. My sister's smile froze. "Welcome back, General," he said, standing at attention. "Your usual briefing? The secretary is waiting." I set down my water glass, slowly. "Tomorrow, Commander, I'm having dinner with family." He nodded, saluted, left. Silence. I watched my sister's face drain of color, and I realized something cold and beautiful. She had no idea who I was. 20 years. That's how long I'd been gone. 20 years since I'd walked out of our mother's funeral and never looked back, since I'd enlisted, since I'd become someone else entirely, someone she couldn't recognize in her expensive ignorance. "You're a general?" Her voice cracked. I picked up my menu. "The reservation is under my name," I said quietly. "They know me here." Her hand trembled on her wine glass. I watched the tremor, studied it the way I'd studied insurgent patterns in surveillance footage. She'd called me 2 weeks ago, out of nowhere. 15 years of silence, and then, "I need to see you. It's about Dad." Dad? The man who'd left us both his estate, the estate she'd convinced him to change in his final days, when dementia had turned his mind to fog. The estate she told me wasn't worth fighting for. "Just medical bills," she'd said on the phone. "Nothing left, but we should reconnect. Family is family." Family. I'd hired a private investigator that same day. The appetizers arrived. She couldn't eat. I savored each bite, let the silence stretch, let her squirm in the chair she'd assumed was too expensive for someone like me, someone she thought was beneath her. "So you're in the military," she said, trying to recover. I didn't know you'd done so well." "You didn't ask." "Well, we lost touch. You blocked my number." Her smile cracked. "That was a misunderstanding." I nodded slowly. The investigator's report sat in my car, 43 pages, bank statements, property records, the truth about Dad's estate, $2.3 million in assets, the house, the land, the investments she'd liquidated and moved into accounts under her married name. She'd told me there was nothing. She'd told me he died broke. She'd forged documents while I was in Kandahar, while I was bleeding in the sand for a country that didn't know my name. "Why did you really call me?" I asked. She blinked. "I told you, to reconnect." "Try again." Her jaw tightened. "I don't appreciate your tone, and I don't appreciate liars." The word hung between us like a blade. She straightened in her chair, put on the mask she'd always worn, the righteous older sister, the one who knew better. "If you're going to be hostile, I know about the estate." She stopped breathing, just for a second, but I saw it. I reached into my jacket, pulled out the envelope, set it on the table between us. "Open it." "I don't know what you think." "Open it." Her hands shook as she lifted the flap, pulled out the documents. Her eyes scanned the pages, the forgery analysis, the bank transfers, the timeline of Dad's mental decline and her sudden control over his accounts. All of it. Every lie, every theft, every moment she'd smiled at his funeral and told me there was nothing left while she'd already moved his money into her name. "You called me," I said, voice flat, "because your husband is leaving you, because the prenup you signed means you get nothing in the divorce, because you thought I was still the stupid little sister you could manipulate." Tears welled in her eyes. I felt nothing. "You needed money," I continued. "You thought I'd pity you, help you. You thought I was still small. Please, I don't know what... Do you know what I do? I leaned forward. I dismantle networks. I find people who hide, people who think they're untouchable. Her face collapsed. I've already filed suit, I said, for the full estate, plus interest, plus penalties for fraud. You can't. I can. I have, and I will win. She tried to speak. I held up one finger. Here's what happens now, I said. You will return every dollar, every asset, every piece of property you stole while I was overseas serving this country. It wasn't all of it. Or I press criminal charges, forgery, fraud, elder abuse. Her color drained from her face completely. You have 72 hours to contact my attorney. I slid a card across the table. After that, I'm done being merciful. We're family. No. The word was arctic. Family doesn't steal from family. Family doesn't erase family. You made your choice 15 years ago. I stood, dropped $300 bills on the table. Dinner's on me, I said, since apparently I can afford it. I walked out into the cold night air, felt nothing but clarity. She'd called me because she thought I was weak, thought I was still the little girl she could push around, but I'd become something else in those 20 years, something she couldn't comprehend from inside her bubble of greed and shallow cruelty. I'd become the person who survives, who adapts, who wins. My phone buzzed, the secretary's assistant confirming tomorrow's briefing. I deleted my sister's contact, blocked her number, and I never looked back. Some people don't deserve your mercy. They only deserve your memory, cold, clear, and completely indifferent to their suffering. I'd given her 20 years of silence. Now she could have a lifetime.